Good evening, friends. I told you guys I would start to do some more of these live videos. So here I am doing the Instagram live. Just wanted to kind of check in with everybody, see how my Celtics fans out there are doing right now. Big game tonight, obviously, super exciting. Just wanted to check in with you all, see how you guys are doing, how you're feeling about the game tonight. Wanted to hear people's thoughts on maybe, how you feel about it. How you feel about game one against the Warriors, NBA Finals. It feels so good to say that. Celtics fans haven't been able to say that in a while. I myself, definitely nervous, but I've called this Celtics team resilient multiple times throughout this playoffs. They just showed it winning game 7 in Miami. I think this is going to be a really good series. I personally think it's going to go at least 6 games, probably 7. The Celtics match up really well with Golden State. A lot of people are counting them out already, the Celtics. But they've gotten counted out multiple times already in these playoffs, and they just continue to fight, and they continue to show why they shouldn't be counted out. And I think, these two teams are constructed very similar. They're both teams that were built from their system and players who came up in their system, which is really nice to be able to see because in a lot of times, it's not like that in the NBA. So both of these teams have players that came up in their system and are just ready to win. And I think overall, there's a lot of storylines to look out for in this playoffs, this series rather. But I think, ultimately, I think both teams are going to be physical. Both teams are going to be aggressive. Celtics obviously have great defense. That's something that they definitely really have going for them. Jason Tatum's going to be a huge factor. And if he can be consistent more so than he's been the rest of this postseason, that's going to be a huge thing for them. Limiting the turnovers is the biggest thing about this team going into the game tonight, because we saw when they lost game 6 at home that the turnovers were such a huge problem, and people like Jaylen Brown cannot be having problems controlling the basketball like they did in those situations. And so for me personally, I'm looking at this as, yes, the Celtics definitely can match up really well with Golden State. They've done it. They have the Warriors number the last few years. They can beat them on the road. They can beat them at home. They did it during the regular season. But you cannot let Steph just be able to just toss up threes whenever he feels like it. You cannot let Clay walk all over you either. And this is going to be one of those series where, do I trust the Celtics defense? 100%. I always trust the Celtics and what they have going for them on defense. However, when it comes to the offense, you cannot be taking bad shots. You cannot be tossing up random threes when you can easily drive to the basket and make a better shot. And, we saw Miami make some mistakes. We saw them kind of slipping up. Jimmy Butler was incredible in that series. But overall, the Celtics played like the better team, and they overall were the better constructed team, I think. I'd say for sure. This is going to be a great coaching matchup. The Warriors have the experience in their favor. I mean, they've done this before. This isn't their first rodeo. They know what it's like to be in the NBA Finals. A lot of these Celtics players are young still, which we knew, going into it. They don't have the experience of being in the finals yet. So that's going to be really, really huge in Golden State's favor, I'd say. What you absolutely do not want to do is get into a habit early of trying to get too excited and take those bad shots and commit turnovers that really shouldn't be committed and makes you look like a freaking high school basketball team. So that's the type of stuff that you have to avoid early on in this game, I'd say. You want to set the tone early. I mean, it's going to be hard to win on the road, but the Celtics have done it. They won 3 games in Miami in the playoffs. I mean, they can win on the road. The idea of being on the road doesn't scare me, but the idea of playing a Warriors team that's as experienced as they are, and they're ready to go, they're amped up, they got the rest, that's another thing too. But I also actually do think the rest technically might be able to not work in their favor because, you never really know. Teams could come out looking a little scrappy if they've had more rest. And so I'm hoping that that's something that the Celtics can take advantage of tonight too. Because yes, they've had a few days rest to digest winning the Eastern Conference, going into this series, flying out to San Francisco. They've had a few days to digest that. However, they haven't had as much rest as Golden State has had. So that could either work in Golden State's favor or not. And I'm hoping it's the latter. I'm hoping that they come out a little bit messy because they haven't played in a while. So that could be something that we could take advantage of, but you have to set the tone early in these games. I mean, the Celtics, we've seen them, they've come out strong in the first quarter, then things will kind of trickle out a little bit, and then they'll start to play better again in the beginning of fourth quarter. Then they make those mistakes at the end, and those mistakes are what you absolutely cannot do in this series, because Golden State is not like Miami. They will not make those mistakes most likely. Like, they're ready for this. They've done it before. And so at the end of the day, for me personally, when it comes to this series, it's going to come down to limiting the turnovers, playing your game of basketball, getting everybody involved on offense, because the Celtics win when they get everybody involved. The Celtics are the type of team who they are deeper than people even are talking about enough, and they have a lot of guys who can really, really be productive and make an impact on this team and this offense. So you want to utilize everybody and not just rely on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But that's another issue. Speaking of Jason Tatum, if he's having a bad shooting night, nobody else knows what to do, and that's the games that they lose too. So I'm putting responsibility on Tatum here to be consistent and be able to make shots and show that why he wants to be an all-star in this league and why he should be an all-star in this league. And so I'm looking at him from that standpoint as somebody who should be able to lead this team. However, you need to involve everybody. You have to. There's no option. There's no have to show that you are the leader of this team and that you deserve to be known as somebody who's a superstar in the NBA. And in order to do that, if you're Jason Tatum, tonight is a night to really prove that. Hi, welcome to my friend Nathan. Shout out to him, the NR Hour Sports Podcast. Everybody should check it out. Wanted to hop in on the live stream. How are you doing today?
Good. How about you? You ready tonight for your Celtics tonight? Let's go.
I'm ready, nervous, excited, a lot of different emotions going through my head right now, but definitely trying to kind of just do this video just to kind of get people hyped up, put people in a positive mindset before it, because this is not going to be easy. It's definitely not going to be an easy series.
No, it's not going to be easy, but I got the Celtics winning in 7 games, and I think.
Yeah?
So, yeah. But,
yeah, I mean, I like to think that, too. That's kind of what I had originally. It definitely scares me, the idea of going back to San Francisco for a game 7. It's a little bit different from going to Miami for a game 7 from my perspective, but I think ideally, obviously I want them to win 6 games and close it out at home.
Yeah.
But they've shown that they can win these elimination games on the road. And so from that standpoint, I feel pretty confident. I mean, they won game 6 in Milwaukee, which was an elimination game for them. They won game 7 on the road in Miami. So they've shown that they can win these games on the road that are must-win games.
Yeah, so I think you're in Golden State first, right?
Yep. First 2 games in San Francisco.
At least you have to get it's going to be hard to get both of them, but at least you guys, the Celtics need to split. Going back to Boston, and then going back to Boston, take 2 at home. I mean, it's going to be obviously tough, but I think if you split in Golden State and take 2 in Boston, then you're obviously in good shape. But knowing the Warriors, anything can happen. But I feel like this is an evenly matched series. But I was listening to the radio. They said the biggest key for the Celtics would be Robert Williams and Grant Williams. Will Grant Williams be able to shoot the 3-pointers for the Celtics? And if Robert Williams can go to the 3-point line and block shots, that's going to be the biggest key, someone said, in the series.
Yeah, I mean, Rob Williams is such an important factor to this team. It's not really talked about enough how important he actually is, because when he was injured, that really definitely made a difference when he couldn't play. When you have Rob Williams posting up, that's a huge thing for this team. And, when you have somebody like him who has the ability to make an impact on defense too, you really want to be able to show that you can do that, you're, obviously I'm also looking at Marcus Smart when I make that statement. Because Marcus Smart is here for his defense. He's here because of his defense. He was Defensive Player of the Year. So that is essentially why he's here. But he was painful to watch in that game 7 against Miami.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit scary. And so players like that need to step up and assume their role and do their job. And I mean, I'm looking at Al Horford. He's had a fantastic playoffs. He's one of the biggest reasons to me personally why the Celtics are here right now.
Yeah, I love Al Horford. Obviously, I don't know why they traded him in the first place. They should have kept him all along. And but for him to come back to Boston, be able to make his first finals appearance, I feel like he's going to feed off from that. And he wants a ring. So I feel like Al Horford will be big in the series. And I don't know, because you got to match the Warriors level. If they go small, you got to go small. If they go big, then you have to go big. So Celtics have to be able to match what the Warriors do in the series, because they have the track record. So
yeah, and that's the biggest thing that is a concern for me. Miami was a tough physical team. Jimmy Butler is fantastic. He had a great series in the Eastern Conference Finals. He deserves all the credit for his performance in that series. So from that standpoint, you know, Miami is a really good team, but they don't have this experience that Golden State has. And so from that perspective, it's, you're matching up with a team that's done this before. They've been to the finals before, and the Celtics team is still young. These players, they don't know what it's like to be in the finals. And so I think, you know, yes, we can look at the regular season, and the Celtics did give the Warriors trouble, but it's just so much different in the postseason, and it's just really, really hard to, you know, feel completely confident. However, one of the biggest words I've used about the Celtics team is that they're resilient. They've every time people have counted them out, they've come back and shown why they shouldn't be counted out. And so I actually think from that standpoint, they will give Golden State a run for their money, regardless of how the series ends. I think it's going to be competitive, and I think it's going to go at least 6 games, maybe even 7, because I think these teams are better matched than people might think they are, especially because of the defense that the Celtics have.
Yeah. Oh, Courtney's in here. What's up, Courtney?
Shout out to Courtney. I'm interested in hearing his thoughts, so hopefully he decides to
bring him in here. Is he still in here?
I hope so.
No.
Yeah. I'm hoping he decides to hop in here and talk to us, because I'm curious what his thoughts are on this series. He always has good NBA analysis.
I had Bree on the show. She's a big, obviously you know her, a big Celtics fan. And,
I do know Bree.
I think I'm sure she's pumped and ready for this one. But I can't believe she lives close by the stadium. That's amazing. And I asked her a question: if Brad Stevens was still the head coach, would he be here right now? She said no, because the way he coached the team. But so what do you think? If Brad Stevens was still a coach, do you think they'll be here right now?
I'm going to say no, and the biggest reason I'm going to say no is because if Brad Stevens wasn't in the role he's in now, the team wouldn't be built the same way that they are to be able to get to the point that they're at. And it's not so much a knack on Brad's coaching. It's more like praising him for the role that he's in now and what he's actually done to this team since assuming this role, and being able to build the team that he has to get to this point. And the fact that he was able to identify a coach that could work with these guys. And I think early on in the season, a lot of Celtics fans weren't high on Ime Udoka. I saw a lot of trash talk from people on Twitter about him as a coach and the decisions he was making. But as the season progressed, those people were starting to apologize to him for saying those types of things, because he's showing that, you know, he can relate to these players. He knows what to do in certain situations now. His rotations have gotten better. He's able to kind of make the right moves at the right time. His timeouts that he's calling were a little weird at the beginning of the season, but now are a lot better too. And so I'd say if Brad Stevens was still the head coach, I don't think they would be at this point, because if Brad Stevens was the head coach still, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to be in the position he's in now to get the players he did for this team. And I think with Brad having had the coaching experience he had, to then assume his current position, being able to know what this team's needs were, has spoken volumes about everything. I think that has made such a huge difference on how this team has performed this season, because I think when you look at somebody like Brad Stevens, who's been coaching this team for a while and then goes into this position and has all the power to get all these players for this team to try and build a team that can be championship contenders, not a whole lot of people in his position would have been able to do that. And so I think the whole Danny Ainge situation and him leaving the organization and Brad Stevens stepping into that role is the most important factor here when it comes to this whole run right now.
Yeah, that's what Bree exactly said on the show when she was on her show. And yeah, she said Brad Stevens is a better fit in the front office role. And then Ime Udoka, man, if he wins a title in this first year, that'd be amazing. Obviously, he comes from Greg Popovich and coached with Brooklyn, and he has a great coaching pedigree. Obviously, a great player back in the day. So I think what's up, Jeremy? You're a legend too.
Welcome to the live stream. Thanks for hopping in. Yeah, I mean, I think that was a really good question. But yeah, I think if Brad Stevens was still the head coach, they probably wouldn't be here. And I think the position Brad Stevens is in now is perfect for him, especially after having that coaching experience, because from that standpoint, he was able to understand exactly what this team's needs were, because he was front of the line working with these guys and was able to surround Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown with players this year that can help support them to get them to the finals. And you look at players like Marcus Smart, even his development this year has been tremendous. Like before the season started, nobody, myself included, could say he was a true point guard. But as the season progressed, he's really, really been able to step into that role of people feeling confident that he can be our guy at point guard. And that's awesome too. But then you bring in players like Al Horford, who's a veteran, has experience and
Derek
on
White
this
too.
team. And is like used to being in the Celtics organization, knows what it's like to play at TD Garden. That's been huge. And Horford showing that in this playoffs, how that experience, you know. And then Derek White, that was another thing at the trade deadline that people weren't sure about that move. But
no, he stepped up.
Yeah, it's a little things that he does that kind of make a difference to this team, you know.
No, he's big time. Coming from the Spurs, I feel like he needed to change his scenery. And he's been helping you guys out. He's a flat out player, and obviously some people don't know about him, but he brings that toughness, and he fits he's a Celtic player. I think he fits right into the system. Obviously, he knows Ime Udoka, I think, from the Spurs days, but yeah. So Derek White's been big. You guys have a deep team, so I think, but the one key, I just want to see Grant Williams or Robert Williams step it up a little bit for you guys. If they do, then you'll be fine. And the rest of the team is obviously, don't worry about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They're going to give you the points, but it's going to be the supporting cast. It will be the big difference for you guys in order to win the championship. So,
yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the bench is a huge thing, because the bench has helped them get through a lot of these games to get to the position they're at now. I mean, you look at players like Peyton Pritchard. He's awesome. I'm such a big Peyton Pritchard fan. I loved him when he was at Oregon. I love him now. But when he comes into games and he's just firing off those threes, that's something that has been huge for this team. And if you could get that productivity from him off the bench in this finals, that's something that I don't really anticipate Golden State being 100% prepared for either defensively.
No.
And so that's why you can bring in somebody like him, and when he gets in the zone, he's just making all those shots. That's somebody to me who's like just one of those like low key kind of secret weapons the Celtics have that you can bring into a game as long as he's on his game. I think opposing teams might feel threatened by something like that or be worried about something like that. And then even Daniel Tice, like he comes off the bench too, but he's also somebody who's familiar with Boston and he's played here before. And if you could get productivity from him off the bench, I think that could make a serious difference too. And like you mentioned Grant Williams, I love the kid. I think he's awesome. I think, you know, going into the season, people weren't really confident in him, but I said, you know, let's just give him some more time. Let's just let's just see, how he does. Like, I think he needs more playing time So then he started to get more minutes. And then when he was getting more minutes, he was starting to play a lot better, and he was starting to really be a valuable member of this team. And so when you look at somebody like Grant Williams, this is the time for him to really prove why he should be fighting for a starting job on this team, because
Yes.
I'm looking at him as somebody with so much potential, and he's grown tremendously just this season, that if he can show up in this series, then he could arguably fight for a starting spot next year over some of the other people. I think this is going to be a big series for him.
Yes. I if he shows that he's capable of being that type of player that the Celtics want, then yeah, I agree with you. I think he can compete for the starting job. And but yeah, Peyton Pritchard, man, I think everybody talks about his height being too small, but it doesn't matter about that. It doesn't matter about height. It's a matter if you can play or not. Like for example, Spud Webb or Muggsy Bogues, they're small. I mean, they played a heck of a career. So Peyton Pritchard is the same type of. I mean, I'm not saying he's Muggsy Bogues or Spud Webb, but I'm saying that he can. When he's when he's on, he's on. He can shoot those threes. So if you can add that type of player, especially against the Golden State Warriors, you have to score points. Obviously.
Yep.
So if he can come up big against the Warriors, then that's another big weapon for you guys too.
Yeah, and even the size in general. It's interesting you mentioned the size thing, because the Celtics were at a huge size disadvantage against Milwaukee, and they still won that series. You know what I mean? And obviously size is a big thing in the NBA, but I think ultimately what the Celtics have going for them, even though they may be at a size disadvantage against other teams, is they're aggressive, especially on defense, because their defense is the best in basketball right now. So they have that going for them, but also on offense, they're versatile and they have multiple players who can do different things. And we haven't seen that from this team in a while. And I think they're able to utilize guys the right way. And I think Ime has started to figure out how to utilize guys the right way. And everybody's been able to assume their roles. So they were able to overcome the size thing when it came to teams like Milwaukee, who clearly very much so had a size advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's going to be the biggest key too. Who else is in here?
Yeah. No, that's going to be
Sean is in here.
Like them being able to utilize.
There he is. There he is. What's up,
Courtney? We wanted.
What's up, Courtney?
Hey.
We were hoping you'd hop in here.
Yes. I had to wash some dishes real quick, and then I had to jump on. So, so let me wash these dishes.
How's it going, Courtney?
Hey, what's going on?
What's up? Great.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Good.
Great
Yeah, I
segment
just
of the
wanted
week.
to kind of start this live
Thanks.
video to just kind of get people pumped up about the game, especially for my Celtics fan followers and everything like that, and just kind of hear people's thoughts on this series as a whole.
Yeah, and I see, Gabby, you're on Instagram Live now, so we got you on here now. So yeah, so now you got to come on anytime we have a live. You got to definitely jump on.
Yeah, I told people I would try to do some Instagram Live, just kind of impromptu, just to see what people think about it. But
Gabby's the GOAT in women in sports. You're the GOAT.
Yes.
Gabby, you're the GOAT.
That compliment. But
Women in sports, women podcasting. But yeah, this series, I'm excited. Can't wait to begin watching this. I think it should be a long series. Hopefully it's not no blowouts or anything like we've been seeing and everything too. But the Warriors back into it. 6 out of the last 8 years. This is their 6th appearance. Celtics young team.
That's what worries me.
Yeah, Celtics young team, hungry. Just had a great series, rough series against the Bucks, game 7s and 7 games, and against the Miami Heat. So they beat a lot of good teams. They beat Brooklyn, they beat Milwaukee, and they beat Miami.
Actually, they beat Brooklyn. They swept Brooklyn.
Yeah. Swept Brooklyn, swept Brooklyn. So, but I think the Celtics size will give the Warriors some fits.
Yeah.
But I think the Warriors' experience, their ball movement, they do a lot of cutting, their 3-point shooting, and that having Steve Kerr at the helm, being there before, I think they win this series. Sorry to tell you that,
Okay.
Gary. I think the Golden State Warriors.
It's okay.
I think the Warriors in 6. I got the Warriors in 6. Yeah, I got them in 6. But I think they win because they're undefeated at home in the playoffs. But the Celtics never lost 2 in a row. Haven't lost 2 in a row in the playoffs either. So. Yeah, so that's tough. I mean, and like we talked, Gabby. I know you did your first live. I was in the comments. You said that when the Celtics turn the ball over, they lose, and when they're hitting their 3-point shots, they win. So it's got to be one or the other. So hopefully they can get more consistent in this series. But it should be a really good series. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I mean, even like what Nathan said before about how if the Celtics can take one of these first 2 games in San Francisco, that's going to be huge going back into Boston. You can't go down 0-2 going back to Boston because I think it's going to be hard to overcome that against a team like Golden State. But I think in general, looking at the Celtics right now, if they can take one of those first 2 games here, I think that can seriously set the tone for the rest of the series because then you get to go home for 2 games. And it's like, okay, if after the first 4 games it's tied 2-2, then we're looking at best of 3 with 2 of those games being in San Francisco, but that's the exact same situation they were in against Miami. But again, like you mentioned, Courtney, Miami doesn't have that same finals experience that Golden State has. And I'm looking at the experience. That's going to be huge in terms of Golden State for an advantage if we're talking about because they've been here. This is not their first rodeo with going to the finals and winning the whole thing. And this Celtics team obviously is young. These guys don't know what that feeling is like of being in the finals. And the Celtics are the type of team where if they commit all these turnovers, that's not going to fly with Golden State. They're going to get absolutely demolished if they do that because we did see a few games against Miami that they could have won, but then they ruined it because of turnovers.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Agreed. And then the funny thing, the craziest thing, if Boston does turn the ball over like they did against Miami, against this Warriors team, as you said, they're going to take advantage of that because they're off to the races. They're running. They're getting open shots. They feast on them. And the Warriors, they turn the ball over a lot too. They turn it over at an alarming rate too, just because of all the passing they do. So they can get a little sloppy with the ball too. So this could be whoever turns the ball over less, usually in this series, it probably will win the series. And when whoever hits 3-point shots. I think another thing that with Golden State, when they played Dallas in the last series, Dallas got a lot of open looks. They just weren't hitting their threes.
Nope.
So if the Celtics are hitting their threes and they're getting open looks, then this could be a real long series.
Like I said,
I think they have to get their shot.
Like I said earlier, I told Gabby, Payton Pritchard, man, he could be a big factor in the series with the shooting threes. And like I said, I told her height doesn't matter. As long as you can play in the league, that means you're in the play. You can play. So Payton Pritchard can play. Obviously, when he's on, he can shoot the threes. But all he needs to do is stay calm and play his game and don't worry about the distraction. So if he does that, then he'll be fine. And you don't have to worry about your 2 stars because you already know what they're going to bring. Tatum and Brown, they're going to do whatever they do during the regular season and so far this playoff. So I'm looking forward to seeing Payton Pritchard and Robert Williams and Grant Williams. I think those are the 3 players I need to see step up for Boston in order to win that championship.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Tatum that's annoyed me this playoffs is how inconsistent he's been. Because he'll have a night where he goes off, but then the next night he can't make anything. And to me, if you're somebody who wants to be a superstar in this league, I kind of adhered to this a little bit before, you need to be more consistent like that in big games like this and be able to show that you can actually really – lead this team when they need you to, and that's been a frustrating thing about Tatum. And then the other frustrating thing, though, to go along with that, is that's not just a Tatum issue, because when he has a bad shooting night, nobody else seems to be able to do anything either. And so that's why you can't be relying that heavily on him, because if he has a bad shooting night, there needs to be other guys who can step up and assume that role too, because they've lost a lot of playoff games this year primarily because of Tatum not having a good night shooting-wise.
Yep. Yeah, and I think Tatum sometimes he gets that Mamba mentality. He really, I mean, he patterns his game with Kobe. I know he had right before Kobe, passed away. Kobe was giving him some tips and advice, and that's when his game started to develop. And I think sometimes he gets into that mold, like, okay, I gotta be like the Black Mamba. It's like, okay, let's slow down a little bit. I mean, he definitely has improved over the years, and I like the way Tatum, how his game has developed, and this playoff run has been great. Like he went toe to toe with Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Jimmy Butler. So, and he beat all three of them. And the team beat all three of them. So you're talking about it. Yeah, you're talking about MVPs, and Jimmy and the champions, and then Jimmy Butler's an all-star player. He went toe to toe with them. So Tatum has arrived. He's a top 10 player in the league right now. So some people say top 5, top 6. So it all depends on, I think, the others. Like Shaq always says, it depends on the other. It depends on which bench is going to play well. Is it going to be Boston's bench? If they're healthy, they got to be healthy. Golden State's getting healthier now. They've had all this. They had a whole week off. So I guess Gary Payton has got cleared to play. Gary Payton,
Junior.
He got cleared to play. Junior, he got cleared to play. And they're missing out a Porter. I think he's questionable. But they're getting their guys back too. So the Warriors are going to be really dangerous. Curry's going to be hungry. He wants to win that MVP. He wants to win that Finals MVP for his first one.
Klay Thompson.
So Klay Thompson is back, and then the Warriors are going to they're going to be ready. So let's see what the Celtics do to counteract that, because they got a great defense. Celtics are really good defensively, and that's the worry I think the Warriors are going to have, where the Celtics can clamp down defensively on the perimeter, inside or outside, and they can match up. So I guess this is going to be defense versus offense. And as you said, Gabby, can Tatum become consistent? The rest of the Celtics become consistent offensively, because they could get a little stagnant offensively too, if they're not hitting their shots and turn the ball over. Like I said, the Warriors they'll take advantage of that, and next thing you know, it's a 15-0 run, 18-0 run, 4 or 5 threes, and then boom, it's over. And the Warriors go through these runs, and it's over. I mean, then you say, wait, they was just down by 10, now they're up by 15. Like, what happened in a matter of 5-6 minutes? So I think the Celtics defense is very, very very good. So yeah,
I think the Celtics, I told Gabby earlier, the Celtics need to match what the Warriors do throughout the series, because if the Warriors go small, you got to go small. If you go big, you got to go big. You got to match what they do, because if you can't, because the Warriors are a chess game. You got to see who's gonna make that move first. Make that big move first. And I want to see the Celtics do good, and I think they deserve another. It's been a while since the Celtics won, so they deserve another ring. And I feel like this is an inspiring story to watch. No one expected you guys to get here that far, and for you guys to be able to be in this situation is just unbelievable for Boston fans and the city. And the city of Boston, I should say, and the fans. So I think I'm hoping for a good series. Like Courtney said, hopefully no blowouts. I don't want blowouts. I want close games. So hopefully that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there definitely will be, at least, there will be a couple blowouts, I think.
Yeah.
But I think in general, they actually could be close games. Because like we said before, the Celtics match up well against Golden State. They do have their number the last few years in general. However, the playoffs are such a different animal. And Golden State, as we talked about, has been here. Steve Kerr has been here. Ime is a first-year coach. Head coach and has done a phenomenal job with this team this year, his first year as head coach. But it's just so much different. You're going into San Francisco against a team that is dominant at home in these playoffs and has been here before to the finals, multiple times in the last 10 years. So it's like, you don't feel great going into it, but at the same time, the Celtics have been able to bounce back every time they've lost a playoff game, and they've been able to adjust and fix whatever they needed to fix and win the next game. So I do trust the coaching. I trust that the players are resilient and how much they want this right now. And I think as young of a team as the Celtics are, they're here and they've been riding this train since the playoffs started, so they've been in these situations of do or die elimination games, and they've been able to pull through every single time. So from that standpoint, I think that could be good for the Celtics. And another thing is just the rest. I think the rest that the Warriors have had may hurt them a little bit in game one. Like it's hard to say for sure whether it's going to benefit them or it's going to hurt them, but there is a possibility that it could hurt them in terms of the fact that the Celtics have played basketball more recently, a few days ago. And yes, they've had a few days off to travel and get ready for the series, but it's been longer than that since Golden State played their last game. So from that standpoint, they may come out a little bit scrappy because of that, because they haven't played basketball in as long in like more recent time than the Celtics have played. So I'm hoping from that standpoint that could work in the Celtics' favor, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that could be it too. You're right. I think when you have a week off, you know there's some rust there. There's going to be some of that, and I think for both teams, because like I said, Celtics have been so banged up. Is we don't even know if Robert Williams is even playing game one. I know he was questionable going into this game, and Marcus Smart still. His ankles are, and he's been banged up all playoffs. So, but he's been playing. He's not going to miss this because he's got to go against Curry. He's got to defend Curry, so he's not definitely going to miss any of these games. My another key I'm looking forward to is like how both teams are going to match up. Like who's going to guard who. We know Smart's going to be on Curry. We know that definitely. Yep. But does Steve Kerr, like we talked about the adjustments? You know, he might surprise. I know Wiggins will probably be on Tatum. I know that's a definite too. So, yeah, the Wiggins is their best perimeter defender. But who does Draymond guard? Like Draymond, probably he can guard
Grant Williams.
Yeah, you know, or I mean, but he might end up going with Jaylen Brown.
I was just gonna say, I feel like
Jaylen Brown, yeah.
Yeah, does he guard Jaylen Brown? Do Kerr put that matchup in, or does he let Klay guard Jaylen Brown? Like who gets that assignment? Like it will be Draymond, or he could switch it up and then have Klay end up just guarding Al Horford because he'll do that because Horford's not a threat in the post, so he could do that. And then then you got Looney and Robert Williams if they go with Robert Williams starting. So that I think that's the chess matches that you talked about, Nathan. Like. Is he gonna match up with Kerr? Because Kerr's gonna do it. Kerr's gonna he's gonna throw a wrench in it. He's gonna probably have, like I said, Draymond. He's either gonna have Draymond on Tatum or Brown. He's gonna have one of the two. So I'm looking forward to see how the matchups are going to be.
Someone said something here. Last time the Celtics faced the Warriors, Marcus Smart put Steph Curry on the IR.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. When they said it was a dirty play, dove for the ball.
Moment, but it's true.
So Curry's probably upset about that. So they're probably thinking in the back of their mind, okay, this is what we know what happened last time. But Marcus Smart, Defensive Player of the Year. He's giving Curry fits, and the Celtics in general are a good defensive team. So it's going to be a great matchup. And then on top of that, the Celtics, how they attack the Warriors offensively too. We talked about Marcus Smart. Like they're going to look to try to put Curry in pick and rolls and let him guard whoever. But Curry has become a better defender over the years. So, but if Jordan Poole comes in, that's a different story. Poole's not a great defender, so they're going to try to attack him as well. So Celtics got to put him in like pick and rolls and put him in the post. So it's gonna be a great matchup to see.
And I was gonna say both teams have great coaching staffs too. Obviously you got Mike Brown there, who's gonna get the head coaching job with the Kings after the series. And then on the Celtics side, Celtics side, you got Damian Stoudemire, who I love, a great player back in the day, and now a great assistant coach. So I feel like the coaching staff is balanced out too, and in my opinion, I think the coaching could be a big factor in this too. Whoever bites the dust first or whatever happens, I think Ime Udoka, obviously a rookie coach, so I think coaching could be a big factor in the series too.
Yeah, 100%. And I know we kind of alluded to this earlier. But, I feel like the coaching is a huge thing, and I think it's such a difference between the two head coaches, too. Like I mentioned with, Ime, who hasn't been a head coach yet, and this is his first time going through all of this, getting a team to the finals in his first year as their head coach is a pretty phenomenal accomplishment. But then you're on this other side of that, you have Steve Kerr, who has coached a team to the NBA championship before. So it's really hard multiple times. So it's really hard to feel that confident. But at the same time, I think the way that Ime has been able to adjust throughout this season in terms of the way he's running the team, the way that his rotations are, the decisions he's making during games has been vastly improved since the start of the season. And I think he's been able to, in some Ime way, make them adjust every time that they have lost a game and figure out what they exactly need to do to win the next game. Because I honestly think one of the biggest reasons why the Celtics are still here is because they've bounced back better than a lot of other teams in this playoffs after they lost a game. And they're able to figure out how to make those adjustments and pretty much look significantly better in the next game. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that sets the Celtics apart right now is that ability to make those adjustments.
Well, yeah, you can discount this Brooklyn series because Celtics manhandled them. So when it got to the Bucks and Heat series, that's when they faced some adversity. And like Gabby said, Celtics were able to stay composed and when they lost and get to them, and then they kept going and winning games and looking now where they are, it's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing, and it is. And like you said, they did face adversity going against Milwaukee. I mean, the defending champions, and then Miami was number one seed in the East. So you got to give them a lot of credit for adjusting and winning. Another thing I think the Celtics need to do is like execute better in the clutch, in the crunch time, because they almost blew that Game 7 against Miami. Where, it was like, oh my goodness. I mean, there was a 3-point shot away. You're up, 9? You're up 9 with 2 minutes left. And then you just don't execute down the stretch. And then Miami's on a roll and they're one shot away. Like Jimmy Butler misses that 3-point shot. It's like, wow, like Celtics just dodged that. They can't do it against the Warriors. They definitely cannot, because I think the Warriors will, like I said, they'll capitalize on that. And they can get on those. They go on those runs. They go on those runs, that 10-15-0 run. That's what the Celtics got to stop. They got to stop that from happening if they can.
Yep. That was a huge thing, too. And it's like we would see Miami go on some runs like that, too, but the Celtics would always find a way to kind of kill those runs and come back and then go on a run of their own, too. And that's something that they need to figure out because, like you said, Golden State is the type of team that if they go on a run at any time, they can just run away with the game. With the way that they play and their style and having Steph and all of that. So I think with the Celtics, it's, you need to figure out how to contain them for the majority of the minutes of those games and not let them go on those drastic runs that could be hard to come back from.
Yeah, because you got Curry 3, Curry 3, Clay 3, Clay 3, Wiggins 3.
So
the next thing you know, it's 15.
Like
15. And then Draymond gets a 3. It's like, okay. All right, now this is like when he's hitting threes, it's like what is going on? What has hit him? So
speaking of Wiggins,
so true. That's so
speaking of Wiggins, what a great story he is. Obviously, not panning out in Minnesota, but once he got to Golden State, he found a home in Golden State. He changed his whole career, and being with Steve Kerr and that coaching staff, I think it helped him out a lot. And Wiggins is turning himself into a legitimate player for the Warriors. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And I really like Jordan Poole as a player, too. I think he's improved so much this year, and he's been a key factor for them this year. I mean, just the improvement from him and just being able to be as much of a factor as he has this year is huge for that team. So that's something that, obviously I can't really like him for this series, but as a player overall, I like him, and he's a fun player to watch, too.
Yeah,
he's another weapon. That's the pool party. That's the pool party. They call Splash Brothers in the pool party. That's yeah. So when the pool party comes in, as we said, they bring that lineup with him. That's the new death lineup that the Celtics gonna have to try to match with Poole, Curry, Thompson, Draymond, and Wiggins. They can match up when you put Grant Williams in there with Horford. And Brown, Tatum, Brown, and Marcus Smart, you know they got to match up, so they can definitely try to match up.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that's going to be fun to watch too. That specific matchup, and I feel like overall, this series is going to be like Golden State's probably going to take the series in 5 games, according to a lot of people, but I think the Celtics are going to give them more trouble than we think. I think that they match up well. I think the Celtics have a very, very well-constructed team right now, and a team that, at the end of the day might not win the series, but even if they don't, I think they at least force it to go 6 or 7 games. But I do feel like if it does go 7, that I'd like to feel inclined to say that my Celtics can win in 7 games because they've done it before. And so I think overall it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be 2 really, really fun teams. I think the basketball world really is going to enjoy this finals because I think these 2 teams are 2 teams that, it's kind of a classic series if you think about it. And I think based on the matchup, it's going to be really, really good just for the sport and just for fans in general. Even if you're not a fan of these 2 teams, I think people in general are just going to really enjoy the series.
Yeah, because I think also I think the NBA. I know the NBA won't say it, but I think they wanted this matchup with the team. The 4 teams that was left. They wanted this matchup. They wanted Boston, big market, and I mean the franchise, the historic franchise in the Celtics with their championships, and you got the Warriors who have been the most recent champions. In the last, like I said, 6 out of the last 8 years, they've been in the finals. So they wanted this. I don't think they wanted Dallas, Miami. No disrespect to any Dallas, Miami fans, but I'm just looking more from a standpoint from TV ratings. They want the Warriors because people either like the Warriors or they don't, and then the Celtics. Celtics are a historic franchise, so this is the matchup they really wanted. I think when Brooklyn got put out, when Phoenix got put out, teams like that. There was no Knicks. There was no LA Lakers. They definitely wanted this Celtics-Warriors series with those last teams in.
Yeah, for sure. They know for them it's good for the NBA, like for the league. It's good to have this matchup.
Wow, they haven't faced each other since 1964. Wow, that's crazy.
Finals, which is
in the finals,
which is crazy.
Wow.
And Celtics win in 5. I mean, it's definitely not going to be 5 games this time. I think it's at least 6.
No, it's at least 6.
But I think like we said before, I think if the Celtics can split these first 2 games in San Francisco, that's going to be huge going back to Boston. You don't have to win both of them. I don't expect them to either, but just try to take either tonight's game or Sunday's game before going back to Boston.
Yeah.
They definitely got. I think they definitely got to get one in San Francisco. If they don't, if the Warriors get a 2-0, it's gonna be pretty tough sledding to come back down 2-0. I mean, they could tie the series 2-2, but the Warriors are so good at home. In the playoffs, it's going to be tough, but they got to get one. They would prefer to get this one.
They got to split.
If they get this one,
they have to split. They have to split in Golden State. They have to split.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to win Game 1 because, like, if the Warriors win Game 1 and they have that momentum, then it's hard. It's going to be hard to win Game 2. But I mean, the Celtics lost Game 1 against Milwaukee. They lost Game 1 against Miami.
Yeah.
So they've been known to come back even after losing a Game 1, but I feel like in this series it would feel especially good to just win Game 1 and set that tone early.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because the Warriors are a little different than the Miami Heat, and even the Bucks too. Even though you said they did lose Game 1 against the Bucks, and Bucks playing without Middleton, that definitely hurts. But if the Celtics, somebody just had the Celtics win the first 2 games against the Warriors, that'll be huge. That'll be huge because
well, then if they win the first 2 games, then it takes a lot of the pressure off after that to win both games at home because then they can afford to drop one of the games at home and then win another one, and then you just have to win one of the next 3 games. So that would obviously be huge. I don't think that's going to happen, but if it did, that would be.
I don't think so either.
Would be awesome.
I mean, I can see them winning Game 1. Yeah, I can see the Celtics win and try to win game one, and then the Warriors adjust and win game two. But I got it flipped. I got the Warriors winning at least game one, maybe game two. But like I said, it all depends. The Celtics has adjusted, so I mean, you can't count them out.
Yeah, I mean that is true. The Celtics are the best road team this postseason, which is correct. They've won on the road. Yeah, no, but it's just Golden State's such a different animal. I feel like.
Yeah, they're 9-0 at home,
Yeah.
and you know, so.
Overall, I know, Courtney, you said you had Warriors in 6, right?
I have.
Yep, Warriors in 6.
Have Celtics. I have Celtics in 7.
I have Celtics in 7 as well. We'll see how it goes. Everyone, hold your breaths, but don't be too freaked out. You know, hopefully we're all a little bit relaxed. We're a little bit excited. This is a series. Believe in the Celtics. All of you Celtics fans out there, they've shown that we can believe in them. So, you know, definitely just trust the process. I have Celtics in 5.
So that's
no, probably not. Yeah, I mean, you know, I hope you all have a great night. You enjoy the game. I have to get ready.
Let's go.
I appreciate both for hopping on here with me. Shout out to these two, by the way. These two both do fantastic work on their podcast. Definitely check them out. The NR Hour Sports Show, Real Deal Podcast. Both of them on multiple podcast platforms. So definitely follow. I have the tuning in. Definitely check out their content. They're both great.
And please go, everyone who's in here, go follow Gabby also. She's amazing. Go follow her Boston Ballin' podcast.
Boston
Ballin'.
Let's go.
she does.
And thanks for that. Too.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate both you guys. Yeah, love talking NBA Finals, NFL, all that.
Courtney,
so, definitely.
Well, Courtney, keep up the great work also, man. You're a legend also.
Thanks, man. So yeah, you both keep up that good work, man, and those great guests and content.
Yeah,
love it all.
Thank you, and good luck to your Celtics, Gabby.
Thank you.
Yes.
We'll see how tonight goes, but I appreciate both. Everyone have a great rest of your night. I'm sure I'll do another live video soon. Anybody's welcome to hop in, share your thoughts. Appreciate you two always.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Appreciate it.
Have a good one. See you guys.